Is there any evidence that angels exist? What about demons? And if there is some unseen realm of spiritual beings, what are they like? What do they do? And what does it mean for you and me? If you've ever asked any of those questions, then check this out. Our entertainment culture has become fascinated by stranger things, like angels and demons. Meaning sorting out biblical truth from cultural fiction is not always easy. The truth is, the Bible doesn't shy away from its supernatural dimensions, detailing that there is an unseen realm populated by a heavenly cast of spiritual beings. According to Scripture then, alongside our own physical reality or what we see, there are powerful spiritual forces playing out a larger conflict. As moral beings with their own agency, some of these spiritual powers freely serve God's purposes, like the wild-looking cherubim and seraphim described by the prophets, who serve as the glorious guards of God's space and as the heralds of God's presence and praise. Then there is God's divine council or heavenly staff team who seem to bear some governance responsibility. And then there are untold legions of angels. But Scripture also describes a dark side in this spiritual taxonomy. That having been created for good, a host of angels rebelled from their station and became damaged by evil. These fallen angels or demons seek to now corrupt God's good world and derail God's redemptive purposes, led by the Satan figure or Lucifer or the devil, a fallen angel who in Scripture goes by many names. When it comes to these beings though, forget just about everything your imagination wants to conjure. Nowhere does the Bible describe these spiritual beings as chubby baby cherubs shooting love arrows, nor does it speak about giant man-birds equipped with feathery wings. See, the word angel itself, from the Greek term angelos, simply means messenger. Mentioned some 273 times in the Bible, when it comes to what angels do, it seems their primary purpose is to serve as God's spiritual emissaries or ambassadors, ministering to the needs of God's people. Traced through the stories in Genesis, Joshua, Isaiah, and Ezekiel, or especially Daniel in the Old Testament, or even the Gospels, Acts, or Revelation in the New Testament, and you'll find these angels delivering divine messages, supernaturally protecting the vulnerable, bringing God's justice upon the wicked, and thwarting evil's purposes. So while appearances of angels are seriously rare in the Christian story, the cultural world of the Bible depicts a flurry of activity in the unseen realm, which is only sometimes glimpsed by humanity, like in the account of Elisha's servant having their eyes opened. So what do the angels look like though when they go public? Well, fun fact, although angels are spiritual beings and sometimes appear in the glorious light of their true form, often when they do come, they veil or hide their glory to take on some physical form to look just like us. Check out the story in Genesis 18, for instance, where three strangers visit Abraham at the Oaks of Mamre. This story alone is one reason why the Bible encourages us to practice hospitality, as we never know when we might be entertaining angels. And we know that there are lots of angels. Maybe not enough for everyone to have their own guardian angel, another popular belief with scant biblical evidence. But Revelation describes a throng of angels numbering in the millions. And we even know the names of two of the major players, Michael and Gabriel, both starring in the Old and New Testaments. Michael as the only mentioned arch or chief angel, who seems to play something of a warring role, and Gabriel, who seems to have been cast as the herald of God's redemptive plans to humanity. Then there are demons who, led by Lucifer or the Satan figure, were cast out of heaven after rejecting their stations and pursuing a rebellion. Scripture seems to paint the devil and these evil powers as playing a significant role in our fallen world, pulling strings behind the scenes, deceiving humanity with godless philosophies and tempting us away from God. That's why the Apostle Paul in Ephesians 6:12 says our battle, it's not against flesh and blood or earthly enemies in our own fellow human beings. Rather, our true struggle is with the works of Satan and his demons, who, although defeated by Jesus, still remain dangerous until their final end in the lake of fire. If you want a great insight into how humans might be susceptible to their spiritual schemes, check out C.S. Lewis's insightful book, The Screwtape Letters. It's an enlightening read. So that's a quick overview of what the Christian story says about angels and demons. But why on earth should you believe in them? Well, that's complex. As it claims standing on its own 2 feet, the evidence for angels is rather spotty. First, there might be the testimonial evidence of seemingly credible witnesses in the Bible. Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdala, the apostles Peter and Paul. Of course, we need to establish the authenticity of their testimony, showing that it serves as the source material for what we read in the Gospels and epistles. but that is a worthwhile study. A truth invites questioning. Second, we have the testimony of scores of people throughout history, whether Christians or otherwise, who have claimed to encounter angels and demons. Now, no doubt upon cross-examination, some of these witnesses will be far more credible than others, but some surely are credible. And so we do have testimonial evidence. And third, we have the case studies of demonic possessions. Now, I know there is a lot of wild claims in this space that can be easily debunked, but institutions like the Catholic Church have been a lot more measured and careful in recent decades, with strict guidelines for psychological explanations being explored as the first port of call, long before ever crediting evil forces as the final diagnosis. And so even still, carefully documented, there are some veridical cases of possession that definitely should be taken into account when it comes to the evidence for these spiritual beings. But the case for angels and demons tends to be tied to the case for Christianity as a whole. If God does exist and Jesus was the Son of God incarnate, then we have every reason to accept Jesus' testimony about these spiritual beings, along with the broad witness of the Christian story. After all, if there is an unseen realm populated by an omnipotent, omniscient, and eternal spiritual being, God, then it's not much of a leap to accept the existence of other spiritual beings who are neither omnipotent nor omniscient and who depend upon God for their ongoing existence. One thing worth pointing out in the case for angels and demons is that the existence of this unseen realm of a host of spiritual beings can go a long way to explaining the panoply of paranormal experiences or spiritual encounters described by people of other religions, or indigenous cultures, or even by people who otherwise identify as overwhelmingly secular. The combined weight of these spiritual experiences, it's hard to ignore, but all paranormal phenomena require interpretation. And I'm persuaded that what Jesus offers in Scripture is a better story to that end. One that not only makes sense of life's deepest questions, but is also able to explain what we bump into in our experience when it comes to the spiritual world. Angels are real, along with their demonic counterparts. And the Christian story opens our eyes and makes us wise to what is really happening behind the scenes, so that we don't get caught off guard.
G'day, it's Dan here from Questioning Christianity. We are all about helping you connect the Christian story to life's deepest questions. So if you're enjoying the content, why don't you subscribe and click the bell on YouTube, that you can go ahead and follow us on socials.